Before we break down the latest coaching news and rumors on the Dallas Cowboys, if you want a second video today, maybe injury-focused, then share this one. The bosses said you have to make this happen for us to get fully into the 2-video-a-day cycle, especially come off-season time. Let's start off with a banger this year. Share today's video. Get to at least 30 on today's vid. We're going to begin with Dan Quinn. Now, this will be I think, a fairly common item update for you guys throughout the next couple of days and weeks and, heck, maybe even a month or beyond there. 3 NFL teams have requested to interview Quinn for their open head coaching jobs, and Quinn allegedly is going to take all 3 interviews. I think there's a real chance that another team or two end up getting added to that rotation with Bears are going to keep Matt Eberflus, which I find interesting there. Only 3 teams really announced their interview lists, so again, I think more will come. Maybe New England job comes open. That might just be the 6 or the 7 that end up being full there. The 3 requested interviews at this stage: Carolina Panthers, the LA Chargers, and the Washington Commanders. Now, I think Quinn wants to be a head coach. There are only 32 of those jobs. The timing is getting closer and closer to being right, but I think it does still have to be the right job for Dan Quinn, knowing the Cowboys job could potentially come open, and the Jones boys will do everything in their realistic power to keep Dan Quinn. The Commanders job is interesting in light of the Will McClay interview there. We'll come back to that one too. Same in Carolina. McClay and Quinn like each other a lot. The Chargers one, I think, is one of the more appealing gigs because of Justin Herbert. However, there is also the not great roster construction and salary cap situation going on there. Not an issue in Carolina, but no first-round pick. The Commanders have a top 2 pick and a lot of money. Low-key is actually kind of an intriguing job with new ownership there. The other open head coaching jobs, Tennessee, I wouldn't be shocked if they interviewed Quinn, but they also just fired Mike Vrabel, who was a defensive mind. So going from one great defensive mind to another one who you had a really good defensive mind coach doesn't make much sense to me logically. He's not going to go back to Atlanta. That one's off the board. And the Raiders, if they're going to go Antonio Pierce or go with a superstar name like a Jim Harbaugh or something along those lines. In the end, look, this might be the year that you lose Dan Quinn or that he gets a head coaching job, which could also be in Dallas potentially, depending on how his playoff run goes. More on that in a little bit. It's unfortunately not as simple as, Jerry just has to pay him. Jerry is paying Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn's making head coach money right now to be in Dallas. That has not changed for several years now. But it's the fact that, hey, there are 32 of these jobs, that's it. And 31 once you take away the Falcons job that you're never going to get again. So you can always come back and be a DC. Your stock can go up and down as a head coach candidate. So at some point, Quinn will be a head coach. Is it in Dallas? Is it somewhere else? Is it even this year? I don't know. Will Dan Quinn be with the Cowboys next year? Y for yes, N for no. It is today's pinned comment, so if the ad comes here on YouTube, take advantage of it. Head down there and let me know. Let's visit the McCarthy situation again. Jerry Jones again backing his head coach, which you would expect nothing else when he's gone 12-5 3 straight years. And look, I fully get, because I'm here too, and I think many of you guys are as well, yet the regular season doesn't matter for this team. It's the playoffs. That's what we care about. They've been a good regular season team. At a certain point, I need them to be a good playoff team too. Only in Dallas, of course, does this. Any other coach, when he goes 12-5, it's like, wow, he's getting an extension when the year is over. He's done it 3 straight years. Dallas, what if he gets fired? It's just how it goes, whether we like it or not. Jerry Jones on 105 Through the Fan, clarifying his previous McCarthy comments, which were taken out of context, by the way. We'll get to the full quote as part of this. Jones said, I was a little surprised. I don't know how it could be any clearer. Coach McCarthy's under contract for next year. That's not an issue. Secondly, I couldn't be more pleased with what he's done and how he's coached. I certainly haven't sat down here right in the middle of the playoffs, started talking to him about a contract. Why would you do that? By the way, he's the busiest cat in all of Texas. That's great Jerryism right there. The last thing that I want to do is spend any time talking with him about these kinds of things, on agreements, extension of agreements, which when I've got one. So that's it. The viral Jerry Jones quote that I've seen so many people run with really did leave off the context and leave off a critical part of the quote. The full quote was this: I just think his record speaks for itself. I think what he's done, the fact that we've put ourselves in the position over these last 3 years, I think that does speak for itself. We got a lot of football left, no small part thanks to Mike and thanks to his staff and thanks to some really outstanding football players around here. We'll see how each game goes. That last quote was the only one that went viral. That was the one that everyone, because they tweeted it out, the reporters did, it's their jobs, but they didn't tweet the full quote because it's tough to. That's the one that got picked up by so many outlets of, wow, Jerry leaves it open. Like, but the full quote is much more positive. If you had left off that single sentence, it would have been not a story at all. Only going with that single sentence, it became a national story. With that said, I do understand the reports from Schefter and others which are really more like speculation from other teams of, we'll see how the playoffs go this year. Mike's done great things 3 straight years in a row. 12-5, 12-5, 12-5. That is the single best run any Cowboys coach has been on. Outside of, we will include the Jimmy Johnson era and include Barry Switzer in there because that's, fair. But that hasn't happened. That 12-5, 3 straight years is, every NFL team would take that. The one year you didn't go, you were decimated by injuries. But you're 1-2 in the playoffs. And that's not good enough. You need more than that. And that, if you collapse against Green Bay, which I don't think you will, but if you do it again, you have to have that conversation, at least internally. And we will have that as well. Now, if you are trying to go to the Cowboys playoff game, make sure you're wearing white. It is a whiteout against the Packers. Also, make sure you're using Game Time, because Game Time is the place for last-minute tickets to your next big sporting event. Game Time is where I get all of my tickets from concerts to theater to, for the wife, of course, to sporting events, the ones that I get to go to these days. Download the Game Time app and use promo code CowboysChat for $20 off your first purchase if you haven't already. Terms do apply, but get that $20 off at GameTime.co and use promo code CowboysChat. I'm a big fan of their zone deals. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seat, because why cares if you're sitting in seat 7 or seat 15? Up to 18% savings on average when you do that. So link will be in the comment section and the description of today's show. We appreciate Game Time sponsoring us here at the Cowboys Report, and you should save some money on those Cowboys playoff tickets. $20 off. Promo code CowboysChat at GameTime.co. That's COWBOYSCHAT. Speaking of the whole chaos stuff around the head coaching situation, the Bill Belichick rumors are back once again, which we knew were going to be the case. His status as of filming, which at some point has to be changed, unless Robert Kraft's going to go Jason Garrett, Jerry Jones on him and drag it out to the playoffs. I don't know. The Cowboys have been linked to Belichick by The Athletic with one unnamed exec who... Execs like to gossip just like we do, folks, and sometimes they don't know as much as the title might suggest. Says, hey, Cowboys are a dark horse. And Peter King goes, I wonder if Jerry Jones wants Bill Belichick. I will say this, if the Belichick-Patriots marriage ends, I think the Falcons are the top threat. That one is... With the way they're handling everything, that really stands out to me. Here's what Peter King of NBC Sports wrote. I think one statement that surprised me in post-Week 18 football. It was this from Jerry Jones, but the future of head coach Mike McCarthy. We'll see how each game goes in the playoffs, Jones said. When I read that, my first thought was Jones wants insurance in case Dallas has an embarrassing end to its season. Second thought, Jones wants a shot at Bill Belichick. Again, we did not do the full quote, which I think is... accidental or intentional or not, it is disingenuous to not do the full quote. I will say this. Belichick and Jerry respect each other. There's been that there for a while, which, of course, how can you not respect Bill having all the Super Bowl titles there? But this is not the same Bill Belichick stock. 5 years ago, it's a no-brainer which one you want. Now, the Patriots offense, which Bill deserves blame for, has been a disaster, and he's not that great of a GM and never has been. So pick a head coach for me. Who would you rather have next year for the Cowboys? BB for Bill Belichick, MM for Mike McCarthy. Go ahead and sound off in the comments section. My first question here is Bill actually an upgrade over Mike McCarthy. Stocks are stocks when it comes to head coaches, but the results in New England have been really bad. And you might say, oh, the roster is bad. And I would go, yeah, I agree. Bill runs the roster too. So that's his fault, right? And not only this, how well would Jerry Jones and Bill Belichick really work together? And I would wonder if others in the org even want Bill Belichick. It might not just be a, hey, Mike McCarthy or Bill Belichick as your head coach. This might be a, hey, Bill Belichick versus McCarthy and Dan Quinn and Will McClay. As those guys might all leave because I'm sure Bill wants GM powers and significant influence as he's always had in New England. If he doesn't, okay, maybe that changes it a little bit, but I don't think it's going to happen anyway. I'm not sure it'd even be a good thing, which is kind of crazy to say where we were 3 years ago from Bill Belichick, but eventually you do lose it as a head coach and GM in this business. Now, don't miss any Cowboys news and rumors. We'll have free videos for you guys all season and, of course, off season long. Hit that sub button for me right now. Let's go to the Vrabel status here, which, of course, has popped up as well, which, I'm not surprised that fans sat and immediately went, ooh, what about Mike Vrabel? Again, it's all speculation, I will say this. I think Titans are making a mistake firing Mike Vrabel. Unlike the Bill Belichick conversation, I would say that Mike Vrabel is a better coach than Mike McCarthy. The results, again, are not fantastic, but, have we looked at that Titans roster? The whole Tennessee thing is very strange to me of Vrabel clearly won a mid-season power struggle against the old GM. The new GM comes in that apparently Vrabel didn't want, and Tennessee went from late November saying Mike's our guy to nope, he's out. It's weird. I do think if you're objectively ranking head coaches, I think Vrabel is higher on that list than Mike McCarthy. But in the end, outside of a one-and-done scenario, I think the far more likely outcome is that Mike McCarthy stays as the Cowboys head coach. Hopefully, if and when you lose, it's not because of head coaching woes and bad decision-making and clock management that's continuously plagued McCarthy, and not just Dallas, but even dating back to his time in Green Bay. Who will be the Cowboys head coach in 2024? Again, 12-5, 3 straight years, and it's a valid question to ask. Sound off for me in the comments section right now. Before we go, this one is actually maybe more concerning to me than anything else we discussed on today's show. Will McClay's status. Now, 2 NFL teams have requested an interview of Will McClay to be their general manager. McClay has drawn interest in years past. That Texans job always had me worried since he's from the area. He is the de facto Cowboys GM. The reality of his job is that McClay does not have the title and not full, true GM powers, but he gets the salary of one, gets some of the control of one, and doesn't have to deal with as much media pressure necessarily, which makes it kind of an appealing job, all things considered. 2 requested interviews, the Commanders and the Carolina Panthers. Now, the Commanders organization is about 50 times more appealing with Josh Harris in there than it ever was with Dan Snyder. The Panthers one, David Tepper's the new Dan Snyder. So I think there is no guarantee for either job that Will McClay would choose to go interview. If I were McClay, the Commanders are a poverty organization. They might not be one for much longer. That job might intrigue me a little bit. It's also, unfortunately, not as simple of, Jerry just got to pay him, give him the title. It's not how it works, guys. Again, this might go down to, hey, you know what? McClay's going to get his, biannual raise, whatever, and we'll keep him happy, and everyone's happy because we love Will McClay, etc. It's not as simple as Jerry's just got to pay him. That's not how this works. He can increase his salary to whatever. And although Will McClay is the de facto GM, what if he wants a true GM title and duties? The Cowboys can give Will McClay the GM title if they want to. It's not going to happen. And also, even if he had the true GM title, is he really the true GM? Or would he want to go somewhere else where he doesn't have to ever potentially deal with the meddlingness? Now, I will say, Carolina has, I would argue, a more meddling owner than Jerry Jones and David Tepper, and who knows how much of a meddlingness we'll really see from Josh Harris. That remains to be seen. Also, again, I hope McClay does not interview. I do not want to lose him. So with that in mind, we are launching, as I did on social media yesterday, Operation Slander. To get Will McClay to stay, we have to lie about him and make it so that the Panthers and Commanders do not want him and their fan base doesn't want him. So we're going to say stuff like, hey, Will McClay doesn't like dogs. Because who doesn't like dogs? Insane people. Or Will McClay likes his steaks well done with extra ketchup. Or Will McClay wanted to draft Jalen Reagor over CeeDee Lamb. Those are the things we're going to say. It's obviously not serious, we're having fun, but you can do it in the comments section.